the experiment. And this was in an early stage of erosion. You still see only the vertical tubes. And later the same thing showed the tubes on one side, and here the hexagonal tunnels as predicted, as from a specimen like this, where you have the cast of it, partly eroded, only vertical exits, fully eroded the hexagonal network. So, in a way, it was very successful, and I was very happy to have this experience through that film, because in the future, I would say, I would not do it by manned vehicle. It's like spacecrafts. It's better done with robots that can stay there, have no problems with having no toilet and other things, and getting tired. You can watch them doing it, and this is probably the future. So this is what I had to say, and Siegel was the IMAX filmmaker who, instead of a honorarium, gave us the dive down there, much more worth, and well, and costing $40,000 a dive, so I could not normally afford that. And other people. Well, so I hope this, keep in mind that this was about evolution, but evolution not in the sense of what the biologist can observe, but in the geologic type and macroevolution and the rules of macroevolution. Thank you. Has by any chance any Seilacher come in? That's strange. That's strange. So I have to call this evening. They will think I want money or
Yeah, it's wonderful talk, as always. I'm sure there are questions, perhaps, for Dolf.
Yeah.
These last two things that made the patterns, burrows, are we talking about a multicellular? Probably, since we can tell.
Yeah.
Multicellular.
Well, that's a very good question, because Verona, that was also in the boat, and for partly political reasons, he wants to keep this question open, and he defends the explanation that these are unicellular xenophyrophores, rhizopods that sometimes make networks in the sediment, but never as regular, and it does not fit the other observations. So I think there are very minute animals, that eat either worms or crustaceans. That's the most likely.
Dedicated functions.
Yeah, and that have learned farming. Yeah.
Do you think the Paleodictyon that's been identified from the Ordovician here is really similar to the other traces?
When you say Paleodictyon, here it means shallow marine. Now, I have seen Paleozoic Paleodictyon and clearly saw that there were roll marks of round corals that also have hexagonal edges. So there are tool marks made by hexagonal calyces on a colony. If you have a real Paleodictyon, this is a question that comes up again and again, and recently I told you about a lithographic limestone in Croatia that we studied this summer, and where the sedimentologists say it's shallow, and I say it's deep sea. Now, of course, when I say it's deep sea, it means the character of the burrows and their tendency of evolving responds to a certain environmental condition, not to the water pressure by which you measure the depth. Maybe these conditions are met somewhere at a shallower depth, but in principle I would say the whole association is more than this one paleodiction, which by the way is found, it's always reported, every field geologist sees that because it's so obvious. The others are less obvious, but they are there also in the present environment. If I had the money and could go back with the robot, I would have the robot sit down next to that thing and wait and wait and wait, and maybe the farmer comes and sneaks in. And also do the excavation on a large surface, square meter by square meter. Remember, no clouds. So it can be done, and we will find all the things that I showed you from the fossil. But to study these forms, the fossil is much better than the model. Yep.
So how long does it take a golden age to develop?
Fun?
How long does it take a golden age to develop?
These?
Or say, so after the Permo-Triassic
That's
extinction,
what we also hope for, but
after,
they were not in the course.
no, but after the Permo-Triassic extinction, so another one of the big five is the late Triassic, too soon. So
You mean other extinction events?
Yeah, and
Well, it can be done. It means only go study the map of the world. Where did you have collisions in the critical time? And then you are likely to find deep sea deposits piled up and can study it. I just haven't studied the Ordovician enough and did not address this for this purpose, which of course was only a sideline on evolution.
I guess what I'm wondering though is maybe the Triassic extinction had happened too quickly, or a full destruction of the...
Yeah, but you see, our the deep sea deposits, the flishes, the turbidite series that I could visit during my life was limited. I did not have all the travel funds. But it can be done. It's just to show what should be done. And what I want to say is the difference between the reaction to the end Cretaceous and the end Permian extinction.
I have a question over here. Do you feel that after the mass extinctions that the deep sea was a source for repopulating the shallow areas, and if any major groups came out of the deep sea early on, I mean, pre-Cambrian?
Well, that's an interesting thought. Of course, the general wisdom is that there is a trend of shallow marine forms to migrate into the deep sea as a refuge from all the perils and predators and so on in the shallow seas. And the opposite is true in one case. The phycosiphon is known in the deep sea throughout the Paleozoic and appears in the shallow sea only in Jurassic times. So there is this, but I don't think that the extinction in the shallow seas was such that it needed the repopulation from down there.
If not, I think we should thank Dolf once again.
Who gets in contact with one of these silos, let me know.
We have snacks.